Hey, what's up, branding experts? Welcome to On Branding Podcast. Today, my guest is David Gaz. David is the founder and creative director of the Bureau of Small Projects, the branding agency dedicated to amplifying the impact of small businesses and startups and non-profits. Hello, David. Thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for having
Thank you so
me.
much. For those who don't know, can you just describe your approach to branding?
We apply big brand and Fortune 500 experience to small businesses, startups, and nonprofits, as you mentioned. Specifically, it's strategy. When we worked with a lot of small businesses and they reach out to us for branding, they're talking about a logo or colors or fonts. In my past experiences working with lots of big brands, a lot of smaller businesses think branding is a logo, colors, and fonts, but big organizations, they understand its
Yeah.
strategy. And our approach is a way to kind of condense that in something that smaller businesses will understand. A lot of people talk about brand messaging. They talk about customer personas, your brand voice, things like that. They're often very confusing for smaller businesses and people that don't have a marketing or branding background. So we frame it in terms of three steps. The first step is you need to understand who your competition is. Competition isn't somebody doing the exact same thing as you, it's somebody who's taking business away from you. Then once you learn about your competitors, you need to learn about what they do well and what they do poorly. What they do well because you have to be at least as good as they are, and then what they do poorly because that represents
Right.
opportunity. And then from there comes the second part of our branding process, which is the key to everything, which is what makes your organization different and better than the folks you just learned about. It's one of those things that takes a second to say, but like the game of Go, it takes a lifetime
Yeah.
to master. You're never ever finishing that. And then once you understand, once you can articulate what it is that you do differently and better than these competitors, then that's where brand story and all the fancy branding stuff comes into play. It's why you do it, the reason that you do it, how you learned, your path, your journey to doing something that's different, an approach that's better than your
Right.
competitor.
So basically, because of your experience with bigger brands and corporations, you've learned a lot along the way and can advise smaller businesses on how to do it the right way and make a bigger impact. As you mentioned at the beginning, not just focusing on the visuals, the logo, but also taking a step back and starting with the strategy. You've got a lot of experience working with small businesses and startups and non-profits. What do you think are the most common mistakes they make when it comes to branding?
Well, I think the biggest mistake is they look at branding as a logo. They tend to make things pretty, which is important. These days, having everything look drop dead gorgeous is kind of the cost of entry. We're in a hyper competitive commercial landscape, as I'm sure you know. Especially you're in the branding business as we are. Type branding into your browser, and it's staggering the amount of people that do what we do. That's why articulating what you do differently and better is so important. And a logo, what I tell our clients often is beautiful typography, a beautiful logo isn't going to sell anything. If you have ugly typography and an ugly logo, you may lose business. But having a gorgeous logo isn't going to do much for your organization. But messaging, clear and concise messaging, articulating the reason why people should buy your product, use your service, or join your organization is kind of the key to everything. Uniquely today, because we are in what's called a winner take all economy where anybody can buy anything all
Yeah.
over the world now. You need to tell people why they should do business with you.
There's so much competition out there. It's all digital these days, and it's really important to get those things right. And branding is at the center, but is more about also verbal branding, not just visual branding, as you mentioned, right? What do you think about the trends in the creative industry? What do you think about AI? Do you leverage AI? Do you notice any other trends?
Oh, we love AI. I think AI is the biggest game changer. People are very scared of AI, as I'm sure you're aware. They're afraid that it's going to take jobs away from people. But honestly, I remember when everything went digital and how it transformed everything. People were scared that they were losing their jobs, and lots of people did lose their jobs. But the advantage of AI is it's going to level up everything. I don't think people are going to lose their jobs. They may change their jobs. I think they'll only lose their jobs if they don't acquire new skills. But I think that AI, what's going to be transformational, is it brings so much more possibility and opportunity. And it takes, especially for small business startups and nonprofits, it takes the cost of entry for a lot of things down quite a bit. You can have a creative team with ideas and talented people with great ideas, and they don't have to focus so much on the execution of those ideas anymore. If you've seen the things that OpenAI is doing with video now, just in the last week, I mean, if you talked to me a week ago, the conversation would have been very different. But it's staggering what it's doing now. And I think it opens up the possibility, it empowers creative people, people with ideas. And being somebody that respects ideas, I think that's why I'm so excited about AI. It takes away the execution of the ideas and puts the power in the people.
Right,
with the
well
brains.
said. So some of this execution, we can probably use some AI tools to help us with execution, but still coming up with the ideas, creative ideas, and connecting those pieces together, right? That's what we do as creatives.
Well, we're leveling the playing field now. What's really cool is it's a hyper competitive world, no doubt, but we've never had more opportunity than we have now either. Especially if you've got ideas and you're starting a new business. Years and years ago, it was very expensive to start a business. You had to rent some space that would be very expensive. You'd have printing costs. You'd have to hire staff. Now you've got availability of staff all over the world with decentralized businesses now, virtual environments. You can talk to clients across the globe via Zoom, much like we're doing now. And then the cost for about everything is just becoming level. Like that's the thing with AI. You look at some of the things that you can now do with AI, and a small organization can compete with larger organizations, which in the past, they could never even dream about.
Do you have any advice for aspiring creatives, maybe design students or perhaps designers who want to open an agency like yourself?
Absolutely. Let me tell you a little story. I started my career in Paris. I remember I had this dinner with a friend of mine, his wife's father, and my friend's father. My friend's father owned a very prestigious auto repair place that did Ferraris and Maseratis and stuff like that in Versailles, like the Beverly Hills of Paris. His girlfriend's father had just failed in a business. And he was kind of musing, we were over dinner, and he was kind of musing about why his business failed. And he said it was because they were undercapitalized. And my friend's father, who owned this shishi kind of auto dealership, auto repair for like Ferraris and stuff in Versailles, he was an immigrant from Spain. And he worked as an auto mechanic and slept under Pont Neuf, under a bridge at night. Literally slept under a bridge, went to work every single day, saved up enough money to buy the garage, then transformed it from just an ordinary garage into a very sophisticated one that worked with all of these fancy sports cars. And he laughed when his girlfriend's father, who was came from a bourgeois upper class family, and in America we don't quite have these differentiations of class. I mean, we kind of think we do, but not like Europe. And her father's family was an aristocratic family. And the guy who slept under the bridge laughed at the aristocrat who said they were undercapitalized. He said, no, that's not at all what your problem was. You need clients. If you have clients, you can get financing, you can get anything you want, you can get space, anything you want as long as you have clients. Any bank will lend to you, anybody will work with you if you have clients, but if you don't have clients, you can't do anything. And I think that's my biggest advice. We're working with an awful lot of small businesses and startups. And the successful ones have one thing and one thing only. It's clients and customers. And then the rest figures itself out. So spend all your time trying to get, don't worry about your prices. Go in as cheap as you possibly can to attract customers. And then once you're overloaded, raise your prices. Once you're overwhelmed again, raise your prices. And everything will figure out.
Yeah, that's great advice. Obviously, if you don't have clients, you don't have business. And as you mentioned, you can lower your prices, you can take on more clients at the beginning, you can even do work for free for some non-profits just to build your
Mhm.
portfolio. Once you have better portfolio, more clients will reach out to you, you can raise your prices and be more selective about who you work with.
And always be improving. Always be improving. If you're working for very little money, let's say you're building a website for very little money, build a 10, 20,000, $50,000 website for 500 or 1,000 bucks, right? Don't build a $500 website for 500 bucks. Build a 20, 30, $50,000
You mean
website
to
for 500
over
bucks.
deliver, right?
Right. Always over deliver, but always be improving, always do better. If you say they're not paying me much, I'm going to do a crappy job, you're going to go out of business faster than ever. Always do an absolutely stellar job, even if you're not getting paid very much. Once you have the customers and the clients, then raise your
Yeah,
prices.
that's a great tip. And those clients will refer you to other clients because they're happy with what they got. They will,
Absolutely.
and that's the best way to get more clients actually through referral because they already trust you, so you don't have to.
As we all know,
That's the
that's the
best way.
best way to
Yeah.
get.
Look, it's been great talking to you. We're gonna link to your website, and for those who just maybe have some questions, want to connect, maybe work with you or learn more, are you active on social media?
I'd say LinkedIn
LinkedIn.
is
Okay.
probably the place I'm at. I'm a workaholic. I like business. I like working. So that's why I'm kind
You
of down
focus
and
on
dirty
work.
with LinkedIn.
That's good. That's actually the way to do it. Yeah. Thank you so much, David.
Oh, it was a pleasure, Eric. An
Thanks.
absolute pleasure.